seriously, Mushoku Tensei is one of, if not the best isekai anime of all time in my opinion, and I'm currently writing this script as season 3 of Mushoku Tensei is being aired. I usually don't talk about anime on the channel, but Mushoku Tensei in my eyes is a true gem, a diamond in the rough, and if you genuinely dislike Mushoku Tensei, I don't think we could be friends anymore. But enough of that. Let me give anybody who hasn't watched the anime a quick summary. The story starts with a no-life perverted virgin who got kicked out for missing both parents' funerals. Okay, pause. This does sound really bad, but I promise you, it gets better. Just bear with me, please. Anyways, he gets kicked out and sees three people arguing with each other in the middle of the road. You know, like high schoolers do. And our main protagonist here sees that a big, massive truck is on its way to run them over. Protagonist runs without thinking, pushes them out of the way, gets hit, and boom! We are in a new world. Now, you might be thinking, wow, this sounds like every intro to any isekai you could think of. And while you may be right on some levels, the story's a lot deeper than you would think. First of all, Rudius is a bit different than your normal protagonist. Actually, let's talk about Rudius for a second. Rudius as a character is not normal, and I mean that in the nicest way. I mean, the second he reincarnates, he feels his mother's breasts up. And I mean, yeah, that's, Yeah, but in all seriousness, Rudius is a character that is very perverted. Not likable and just downright creepy at first glance. The scum of the earth even, someone you wouldn't want around your little sister or even brother, probably. I'm not going to justify his actions because if you watch the anime you would know what I'm talking about, but Rudius's growth as a character is not something to ignore either. As the series goes on, you see Rudius go from a non-respectable perverted weirdo loser to a respectable perverted weirdo loser. Again, if you watch the show it makes sense. Okay, look, here's an example, right? The second episode of Mushoku Tensei introduced us to a girl named Roxy. At first glance, all he cares about is how she's a girl and is cute. But near the end, she ends up rubbing off on Rudius, and Rudius sees her as a very important person. Specifically for her showing him that there's no reason to be afraid of the outside world. Rudius in his previous life never went outside because he got hanged up on the school fence bared naked in front of everybody. If that happened to me, I might just kill myself, in-game. And I'm not even joking. This man Rudius locked himself up in the room and refused to go to school. Look, while I can't say I blame him, why would you just give up like that? Me personally, I'm built different, so I wouldn't know. Everyone knows I'm packing. Rudius at this early stage in life was still planning on being a shut-in, still being afraid of the world and honestly wanted to be alone. But Roxy changed that. He changed that. Rudius changed his perspective of things and saw the world as it really was. A place to learn and do things. Something him in his previous life thought he couldn't do. And while I'm not saying this is the key pivotal moment for Rudius' whole change of perspective, in fact, I'd argue his perspective goes as far as volume 15 of the light novel, or even in certain arguments to the very last volume. But this moment appears in episode 2 of the anime. Mushoku Tensei already being this unique and tackling something like prolonged depression in the second episode is huge. Rudius is also a really good husband despite having 3 wives. I'm not gonna lie, like, I was looking over the script and that 3 wives statement was kinda crazy. Well, I guess I do have to say this if I'm talking about this anime. Let's talk about Rudius's more weird sides. I do not condone anything Rudius does or say in the anime. Obviously, Rudius is a weird ass protagonist and he obviously has some mental issues. But again, this was a guy shut inside for a long ass time doing nothing but sitting on their ass all day. This is not an excuse, but if you genuinely won't even try watching the anime because of Rudius, you are missing out on a lot. Yes, Rudius is a terrible person, and the things he says is very, weird, but again, don't let this push you away from watching an amazing anime. I didn't like Rudius at first either, but after the first season, well, let me rephrase. Basically, once he gets older, he gets a lot better. He's still dirty, but they tone it down a bit to make room for the story. Now, onto the characters. I think Mushoku Tensei truly has some of the greatest cast of characters I have seen in an anime, period. I always find myself feeling for the cast more so than almost any other anime. One Piece. Anyways, at the very beginning, you are introduced to a character named Roxy, who's a demon, a part of the Meager tribe, who left her home because she doesn't have the same mind reading ability as everyone else in her clan, which makes her feel like an outcast. She left, joined a party, disbanded said party, and got recommended by another party to go to Renoa Magic Academy to learn magic. She graduates, then looks for work, and this said work directly leads to her tutoring Rudius in a small village. Sophie is also a really good addition to the overall roster already, even though she's like my third favorite of Rudius' wives. Sophie basically got bullied for having green hair because usually green hair represents Superbirds, and Superbirds are very bad people. Well, supposedly. Anyways, Rudius sees a bunch of kids picking on her, and Rudius obviously steps in and plasters them with water. The kids piss their pants and they yell and go tell mommy, no. Anyways, Rudius and Sophie bond and they get along greatly. Eris is another great character to show a more royal political side to the story. Eris is the princess of the Asuran kingdom, which causes her to overwhelm because in the back of her head and everyone else's, she doesn't seem fit to become queen. She would rather be a swordswoman like Ghislaine and follow her own path. Eris's father, Philip, eventually hired Paul's kid, Rudius, to tutor Eris magic because every other tutor hired by Philip ends up getting the shit beat out of them by Eris, or Eris just simply not showing any interest. This will be the last person that I talk about in this video because there's so many characters in Mushoku Tensei, but there's only one character I like more than the protagonist himself. You know what? I'm not even going to go off of a script for Zenoba, because Zenoba is genuinely like one of my favorite characters in all of anime. In fact, I'm just going to tell you all the things I like about him because I feel like with my own words, it'd be like a lot more interesting. Okay, so Zenoba is basically a blessed child, and like he's feared among like royalty and stuff because he ripped his little brother's heads off when he was like when his little brother was only like 3 or something. I don't know, but he like ripped his brother's head off, and he has this strength because he's a blessed child, so he didn't mean to do it. Like he's blessed with like crazy strength. And Zenoba, like, out of everyone, is like my favorite character because low key Zenoba is just built different, bro. Like, like the shit he'll do for Rudius is like actually beyond crazy. And he like actually like sees himself as a servant to Rudius because Rudius like made a doll for him. Or no, Rudius like or Zenoba like likes the dolls Rudius make, so it's like actually crazy, bro. Like the fact that Zenobo like actually risk his life against a Tophe. Well, spoiler alert, by the way. He'll risk his life against a Tophe to like make sure Rudius doesn't go down, and he'll like hold her till he's like bloodied and shit. Like that's genuinely, bro. I love Zenoba, bro. Like, all right, I need to stop glazing, bro. I know my explanations suck, and I promise you I've watched all the anime, and I'm actually finishing up the light novel right now. But Zenoba is genuinely such a fun character, and his personality is great, and I actually find myself laughing sometimes. I'd go as far as to recommend this series solely for his character in the series. Zenoba is great, love him, he's the GOAT. I'm sure some of you were expecting me to add on to any of the other characters like Cliff, Elena Lee, Scalane, Nanahoshi, Orsted, but keep in mind I'm only talking about the characters I really like. And while the characters I didn't talk about do have some great quirks about them, I just like the ones I listed better, and they are my favorite characters in the series. And while Orsted is like one of my favorite characters in the entire anime and light novel, I'm gonna try to keep things anime only because if I were to introduce like all the newer characters in the light novel, this video would be hours long. Now, on to my main reason why Mushoku Tensei is one of the best animes of all time, and in my personal opinion, the main reason people talk about the anime. World building. In the first 4 volumes alone, it sets up a whole world full of different countries, currencies, 6 languages, politics, explain magic systems, sickness, slavery issues, etc., etc. For example, the Dodolia Tribe Forest, which literally has a weather phenomenon that happens once a year that makes it completely impossible to travel because its clouds flood the entire forest. Another example is the Meager tribe, where whilst the land is desolate, feels oddly community-like and very quiet, due in part with their mind-reading ability that lets them speak to each other telepathically. The Adventurers Guild in Mushoku Tensei is also very well thought out too. I know I said I wouldn't talk about the light novel, but the light novel shows Rudius reading out most of the rules for the guild, and I always thought that was such a nice touch because why wouldn't there be rules in a line of work like this? A lot of isekai don't really establish many rules, but Mushoku Tensei is one of the few exceptions. Now, you might be thinking, doesn't this sound like every other isekai? And while it does sound very similar to some tropes, Mushoku Tensei does it 10 times better and it does it to a T. You would understand if you watched the series, because everything I've said now doesn't do the series justice. Mushoku Tensei is a great anime, and while it does have its flaws, Rudius, the good heavily outweighs the bad. I say this with all my heart. Please try to watch the first 12 episodes to at least give it a fighting chance. Whilst I was hooked on the first episode, it might be different for you guys. Anyways, peace out. I stream Monday through Saturday on Twitch, so make sure to follow me on there.
Thank you.